to Chef Richard's Kitchen. I'm Chef Richard Miller. Today we're going to make a steak dinner, and this is one that's actually worthy of making for your loved ones on Valentine's Day or any special day, and it's called Steak Oscar. And what Steak Oscar is it's a filet mignon, or you can use any other kind of a tender steak if you like, but the traditional recipe is with filet mignon. And it's made with a crab béarnaise sauce with a few shrimp around it with asparagus. And you make it, we're going to make the béarnaise sauce, or we're going to make the sauce for it right now. And then we're going to go ahead and make some mashed potatoes. And generally, when I serve this, I put a thin layer of mashed potatoes down, and then I put the steak on top of it, the sauce, and then build it from there. And that makes a very, very delicious. It's when you look at it, it's something that's extremely impressive, and actually, I think it's great for something like Valentine's Day or something like that. Or if you have the boss over and you're really looking for a promotion, this is something that'll do it. So the first thing let's do is let's start by making the sauce. And what I did was I just took my pan, and like I always do with my pans, I just take and spray a little vegetable spray in there. And that just makes it so much easier to clean up. And I'm going to put in a 1/4 cup of white wine, a 1/4 cup of chopped tarragon, and probably about 1/4, a little more, of chopped shallots. Now, shallots used to be expensive, and most of the time when recipes called for shallots, they just use green onions or scallions. But anymore, shallots are much, much more plentiful. They're much less expensive, and so you can go ahead and you can actually afford to use shallots in there now, and it gives it a much better flavor. It's still a strong flavor, but it's a combination of an onion and garlic, and it gives a unique flavor all its own. Does that mean that you're still not going to cry when you chop it? Oh no, you still will. It's still an onion. And then we'll go ahead and we'll put in about a teaspoon of lemon juice. Now, we're going to take this over to the stove, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to saute this until the scallions and the shallots are well cooked down, as well as the wine has been reduced. So let's take this over to the stove. Alright, now that we're on the stove, let's go ahead, let's let this heat up, and we'll just go ahead and let it cook down for a little bit. Alright, our wine is just starting to bubble here, but we're going to go ahead and let it boil, and then we're going to let it simmer until this is reduced by about half. Okay, the onions are softening nicely. They're pretty well translucent. What we're going to do, though, is we're going to take these, and we're going to, after we put some butter in here and mix this all together, we're going to go ahead and strain it. So we're going to have to make sure that our onion and tarragon is actually released its flavor. So we're going to let it simmer in here for quite a while just to make sure that the flavors, have all gotten extracted from the shallot and the tarragon. Okay, you can see how the butter is melting in there, and we're infusing the flavor. All right, now let's go ahead and taste it and see if it needs anything. We've put no salt or pepper in there, so let's go ahead and try it. You can taste the butter, the tarragon, you can taste the shallots, but it's flabby. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to put a little salt, and in this case I'm going to use white pepper. Why white pepper? Well, mainly because when you put white pepper in something, it doesn't show the little specks of black pepper. And you want your dish to look like, you want it to look like it's been done with care, not with fly specks. Yeah, just a little bit more pepper. Much better. This is absolutely delicious. All right, so let's go ahead, let's go back to the counter, and what we're going to do is we're going to strain all the solid bits out of this. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to strain the solids out of this. So as you can see here, we have our tarragon and we have our shallots, but they've lost their flavor. We've boiled all the flavor, simmered all the flavor out of them. So it's all in the butter mixture. So at this point now, we just strain them out and we go ahead and discard them. Okay, as we can see here, we have our butter mixture. Now let's go ahead, and the next thing I want to do is I want to prepare our mashed potatoes, or at least get them started. And what I've done is I've taken 4 Yukon Gold medium-sized potatoes. I peeled them and I've quartered them. And so now let's just go ahead and let's put some water in here, and let's go ahead and boil them so we can, so we can make them tender. All right, let's put these on and let's just wait till they boil. I do want to put just a little bit of salt in the water here. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to let this boil until we can stick a fork in there and they're tender. Then they'll be ready to mash. All right, it's been about 10 minutes. And so what I'm doing now is I'm just going ahead and sticking a fork in there. The fork will penetrate, but it just doesn't go easy enough for mashed. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let it go for about another 10 or so minutes, and then we'll come back and check it again. I'll be right back. All right, let's check them now. The fork presses in very easily, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say that they're done. Now let me go ahead and let me strain the water out of these, and then let's go ahead and mash them. All right, the water is strained out of these, and I want to put a little milk in there. And now let's go ahead and take my Year One potato masher. Why do I call it that? Well, look at it. This is probably about what the first potato masher would look like. Alright, so their potatoes are nice and mashed. Let me go ahead and I want to go ahead and put a little salt and a little white pepper in there. Alright, now let's go ahead and take a taste. Actually very good. It's got a good potato flavor. Now, Yukon Golds aren't the starchy potatoes like russets are, so you don't have to treat them the same way. But you know, remember, still don't leave them in water. But let's go ahead and let's say these are done. So I'm going to go ahead and take them off the burner, and let's just go on to the next step. Okay, for our next step, we want to have a little asparagus with them. So I'm going to take some asparagus, and you notice how thin these are. I prefer, you know, a little thin, young asparagus over the much wider, mature, just because when you break off, like about half of these or even break off the back third, they're actually very, very tender and very, very good. If you let them get too big, they get woody. So, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put my asparagus in here. I'm going to put some water in, and let's go ahead and steam these. All right, now let's go ahead and let's put the asparagus on and do them pretty much the same way as we did the potatoes. We're just going to wait until they're, you know, steam until they're nice and tender. Then we'll be right back. All right, the asparagus is steamed very well, So what I want to do is I want to go ahead and I want to strain this, and I want to put it in a bowl, and then we're going to go ahead and we're going to make our steak Oscar. Let me turn this off. Okay, now I've gone ahead and I've combined my butter and tarragon mixture and my crab mixture together. I put in some parsley and a little bit of lemon. So now let's go over to the stove and let's heat this up. Alright, let's just go ahead and let this heat up, and then we're going to go ahead and we're going to let it simmer a little bit until it thickens. If we need to, we'll go ahead and put in a little cornstarch and water to thicken it up to the proper consistency. Then we're ready to make our steaks. Now that we have our butter tarragon mixture heating over there, I've gone ahead and I've set it to a more like a medium simmer, and we're going to let it cook down for just a little bit. If we need to, we're going to put in a little cornstarch and water mixture. Then we're going to go ahead, and since we've got the potatoes, we have the crab mixture, the asparagus, we're going to go ahead and make the steaks. So, be right back. Okay, now that we have our asparagus, our potatoes, and our crab mixture done, now it's time to turn our attention to our steaks. And for our steaks, what we want to do is we want to take and rub a little bit of olive oil on each one, and for that is simply because when we put the salt and pepper on, we want it to stick. Okay, so now we're going to go to the stove, and what we're going to do is we're going to take and we're going to put a little bit of butter and olive oil into the bottom of the pan, and then we're going to go ahead and we're going to put our steaks in there, and we're going to put a little salt and a little pepper on there, and we're going to go ahead and brown them. Now we're not going to go ahead and cook them all the way through. What we're going to do is we're going to put them in the oven after that, so we get them up to about 125, 130 degrees, which is about medium rare. Then we're going to take them out and we're going to let them rest for about 10 minutes. So let's go ahead and let's put these in this pan. Okay, notice how our butter is melting very nicely. What we're going to do now is we're going to take and put a little bit of lemon juice and we're going to let it go ahead and reduce the rest of the way, and then we're going to go ahead and put our steaks in. that you hear is just the lemon juice boiling off. There, now this boiled off, you don't hear it nearly as much or as bad. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and let our steaks brown a little bit. Now we're going to put a little salt. And a little pepper on each. And we're going to go ahead and let these brown for, probably about, a couple, 3 minutes. Something like that. And then we're going to go ahead and flip them over. All right, let's go ahead and flip them, because you notice they're getting browned. Now let's do the same again. Let's put a little salt. And a little bit of pepper. This is just because I don't want them drying out while the other side browns. Okay. It looks like the other side's brown. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this off. And I preheated my oven to 400 degrees. So I'm going to go ahead and put these in the oven now. But before I do, I want to take the temperature. It's right about 110 degrees, somewhere around in there. So what I want to do is I want to get this up to about 125. So I'm going to put them in the oven now. And we're going to let them finish that way. Now while the steaks are in the oven, let's go ahead and let's make sure that our crab sauce and that our potatoes and the asparagus are ready to go. And then as soon as the steaks are done, we're going to plate. Alright, our steaks are done. They're done to about medium. And what I want to do now is we have the last thing we have to do. And that's I want to take our steaks and I want to let them rest for about 10 minutes. And while we do that, let's go ahead and let's cook our shrimp. And this will only take a minute. So let's go ahead and put this back on the stove again. Now remember, all we're going to do is we're going to cook the shrimp until it's just pink through. We don't want to overcook it, because then we might as well sole our shoe with it. You know, it would be too tough. So we're just going to go ahead and cook it till it's just pink, and that'll be done. All right, let's go ahead and flip them over. All right, let's just give them another couple minutes. Okay, now we're done. Now we're ready to plate. So the first thing I want to do is I want to put a little mashed potatoes on here. And then I want to put a couple of asparagus strands right underneath it. All right, now let's go ahead and I'm going to put our steak right on top of that. Now on top of this, I want to go ahead, I want to put our crab and butter mixture, and I want to put a couple of shrimp on here. Okay, and here we go. Now let's go ahead, and since this is our vegetable, let's go ahead and put a few asparagus down on the plate. Alright, now if we want, we can put a few parsley flakes on the top, and we can garnish this with a little bit of tarragon or I've actually got a carrot top. So here we are, Steak Oscar. It's a filet mignon on top of mashed potatoes with a crab butter mixture on top of that, some shrimp that we've gone ahead and we've cooked in the butter mixture, some asparagus, and a little garnish. So here we are. Now, feel free to try this. This is a very good recipe, you know, when you're making something that's for a romantic dinner or something like that. There's nothing really that says love like a filet mignon with all the trimmings, you know, and done well. So go ahead and give this a try. Let me know how you do. Please do it. Step out of your comfort zone. I've shown you how. So go ahead, step out of your comfort zone and let me know how you do. Leave me a message, leave me a comment, send me an email at chefrdmiller@att.net. And once again, you know, I really appreciate you tuning into my channel and watching my episodes. Go ahead and give me a thumbs up if you want. Better than that is go ahead and subscribe so you're not going to miss any, you know, of my episodes showing you how to do fine meals. In the meantime, take care from the heart. God bless. You know, remember that cooking should always be fun. And I'll see you next episode. Bye for now.